Hi guys, I'm outside with our lovely greenhouse, which is interesting, but I thought we would do another video to explain the second half of the chapter, which is all about genuine listening. Um, so I'm going to jump right into it because these are super lengthy otherwise. So genuine listening, just like the bad, has a couple different sections to it. There's three parts. So the first part, it is called First Listen with Your Eyes, Heart, and Ears. So he points out that when we communicate, only 7% is the words that we say, 53% is body language, and 40% is our tone and our feelings behind it. And so just kind of paying attention to when we listen, we're not just listening to the words that people are saying, we're listening to every part of what they're saying. So their eyes, heart, and ears, right? And then it gives this really great example that I like, that you can change the meaning of a sentence by putting emphasis on different words. And so this is the prime example of why I hate texting, right? Because you can just totally take it the way you want to say it. So the sentence is, I didn't say you had an attitude problem. So the first way is, I didn't say you had an attitude problem. Or, I didn't say you had an attitude problem. Or, I didn't say you had an attitude problem, right? So you just put the emphasis on slightly different words and it totally changes the meaning. Okay, so then the second part is stand in their shoes. So to become a genuine listener, you have to take off your shoes and stand in theirs. You have to understand that their perspective and their life and their situation, their shoes might be a little different than yours. And this, I read this section and I really thought this is just paradigm shifts, right? So it gives all these examples, but it's saying, I'm not going to judge you unless I understand where you're coming from. So taking understanding communication is not a competition. It's not a competition when we talk, but you can understand where they're coming from. And then third is to practice mirroring. So mirroring is kind of confusing. At first, it sounds like you're suggesting that you mimic and mock people, and when done incorrectly, that is exactly what you're doing. But mirroring is not judging, not advising, not probing, but it's just kind of reflecting. So you're just giving them the opportunity to totally talk, and you're not saying anything. You're not really, you're not adding in your own advice to it. So you're just kind of letting them have the floor for a little while. So mirroring is, let me find a good example before I mess this up. So someone says, I'm failing all of my classes. So you say, oh, so you're worried about your grades. Yeah, I am. Like, I'm really scared I'm not going to get into college. So college is really important to you. Getting into college is important to you. Yeah, it's really important to me, right? So the other speaker is not really saying much. They're really just kind of mirroring what the other person is saying, using the same words, adding in a little bit of questions, right? So what you're saying is, or I hear that. So mirroring is kind of repeating the meaning of what they're saying, using your own words. It's warm, it's caring, it's coming from a genuine, understanding place. If you're coming from a cold, indifferent place, then you're mimicking. If you're using the exact same words, if you're repeating the exact same sentence, you're just mimicking. And that's really hurtful for conversations. So when you mirror, if you don't actually have the desire to understand what they're trying to say, you will be manipulating people and you'll be rude and cold, right? So mirroring is supposed to be a genuine conversation. If you think about like a conversation with your parents where they like probe or attack or instantly get on you about like, you're failing all your classes, are you kidding me, right? Like that shuts you down. But if they said instead, oh, so you're worried about your grades? Tell me about that, right? Or I hear you're sad, tell me about that, right? So it just kind of changes and gives you the floor to speak. Okay, so then at the very end of the chapter, it's literally not even 2 full pages. It talks about then seek to be understood, which is the second half of the habit. So it says, I'm going to read a little bit. It says, I saw the results of a survey in which people were asked what their greatest fears were. Death came out as number 2. You'll never guess what the number 1 fear was. It was speaking in public. People would rather die than speak in public. Isn't that interesting? It takes boldness to speak up in public, that's for sure, but it also takes boldness to speak up in general. The second half of habit 5 is to then seek to be understood. Seeking first to understand requires consideration, but seeking then to be understood requires courage. So if you only practice the first half, if you're only trying to be a good listener, but you're not trying to speak up for yourself, then it's a lose-win situation. You're a doormat, you're not getting what you need. So it's a super easy trap to fall into with specific people for sure. So like with your parents, it's very easy to say like, they're not going to listen to me, they do not care about the situation, I'm not going to speak up for myself, right? So you're not then seeking to be understood. So when we harbor these feelings, we'll carry on in the same patterns and never get out of them. They'll never die. So you're buried alive with these unexpressed feelings, and they usually come out in super ugly ways. So giving feedback is a super important part of it, and if you do that all correctly, it's a good deposit in your RBA. Everyone will be grateful for it. And it kind of wraps up very quickly. This section of it does, but it's just kind of saying, yes, be a good listener, but also stand up for yourself and be understood when you're talking to your friends. There's a lot of rustling. Okay, and then the very last couple sentences of the chapter say, well, that should pretty much wrap it up. I don't have a lot more to say, except to end on this thought. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them accordingly.